they had 4 in a row here. I think 6 to 7. Just how, is it tough to say how do you pull out of it to a degree, or is there something you can maybe point to that you guys can find here in the next day or so?
I think it's we've been inconsistent in what we're doing on the floor. In the first half of games, we come out with good energy because you're optimistic about turning things around, and the ball is moving. We on the string defensively. We're doing a lot of good things, and I think over time, over the course of a game, things break down, and that happens to everybody. But it's just a matter of how disciplined you are, how much desire you have to sustain that. And I think we just haven't done a great job of keeping our energy up, keeping our focus up. And I don't think that it's out of us just not trying to or wanting to. I think teams are just going after it a little bit harder than us in certain moments. And in those moments, they see a couple shots go in. We turn the ball over. They get on a little bit of a run. And in this league, if you let teams start to believe and feel good about themselves, runs happen. And, I think that's kind of been the story of these last, 4, 5, 6 games. And sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. And, it's not always something that you can just change. Sometimes you're just in a hit. Sometimes you're just in a little bit of a hole. And it's hard to get out of it, when you just having things not going your way. And I think that's just kind of where we've been the last couple games.
Do you think the ball sticking to a degree has been a problem at times? I think you had 18 assists on 20 buckets in the first half. Second half, it kind of slowed a little bit. And you've said how sometimes in that moment it can get hard to restart that.
Yeah.
Is that all related to a degree where the ball stops, but then also, it's not lack of belief, but kind of like, as you said, like your head kind of goes down a little bit. Is it related to a degree where it's just kind of hard to pull yourselves out of?
I think it's obvious, like you said, you get 18 assists on 20 baskets in the first half. It's clear that the ball is moving, and I think when the ball is moving, everybody's involved. Everybody's playing a part in us having success. And then when you stop doing that, guys are less involved. And I don't want to say that means people aren't going to do their jobs because they're not touching the ball. But when you are touching it and when you are involved, that's contagious, and it creates energy for the team. So I think it is connected to when we stop playing that way. We play worse offense. Our offense is just worse. It's more predictable. It's easier to stop, and, our offense ends up hurting our defense because now we're not getting set. We playing against, teams in transition. We cross-matched. The floor is open, and it's just harder to get stops. And, when that starts to happen, it's hard to keep teams down. And I think that's what we've been up against a few times.
Why do you think Brunson is giving you guys so much trouble this year? Obviously, he's having a good season, but he's had a couple of big games against y'all. Yeah.
First of all, he's one of the best players in the league. He's a scorer. And, as somebody who's been in a situation where I've had the ball in my hands 95% of the time, 90% of the time, certain matchups that I can just think of that I've had over the years where I knew the type of coverage they were going to be in. And, we play a drop coverage. And, he's getting those screens set. He's coming downhill. He plays in the mid-range with floaters and pull-up jumpers and stuff like that. So I think the way he plays, coming into these games and knowing the kind of coverages that he's going to see, I think that's kind of the reason why. Think we could play our coverages better. We could all help each other better, getting into the ball, shrinking the floor, making it less comfortable. But that would be my guess, just from my personal experience.
You guys, even I think maybe a month ago or so, when things weren't going the way you wanted, you still had just like a belief in what you guys were building and such. I'm just kind of wondering where that is now. How do you feel just present day about just what you guys are building and how you feel as the season winds down?
As crazy as it might sound, I feel good, Obviously, I hate how the last 2 weeks or so, however long it's been, has gone. It's uncomfortable, and it's frustrating to lose games that we should win and then have a game like tonight where we start off playing well and then have a bad third quarter and get those guys believing, and then they take over the game. But When I look around the locker room, I just feel good about it. You know, I see Giannis and Chris and Bobby and Brooke and Jay and Pat, Bees. You know, when I look around, I just have a true belief in what we have, you know, our experience, how long we've been around. And I know that sometimes it gets dark. You know, this league is a tough league. Sometimes you have hard times. And I think that's what it is for us. And when this kind of stuff happens, everybody's going to say how bad it is and this is the problem. They got to do this, they got to do that. But when you just keep fighting in these situations, you never know when it's going to turn. That's why you got to stay together. You got to keep believing. And these are the moments where you find out who's a real one and who's not. Because everybody's going to be saying negative stuff and how wrong it is and how bad it is. And you can fold or not fold. And, you know, that's what we're going to learn about ourselves going into the playoffs, you know, based on the experience that we have right now.
Hey, Dame, I know it's been a long season and you've had a lot of upheaval for yourself personally and the team as a whole, but why do you think with even 4 games left in the regular season, there's still issues with energy and focus right heading into the playoffs?
I think when you talk about energy, it's just a long season, you know. I think if you look around the league, we're not the only team experiencing that. You know, a lot of teams are kind of struggling, losing a couple games you shouldn't lose. You're seeing leads, and, you know, today Cleveland was up like 30 and lost, you know. So you're seeing it around the league, so I don't think it's anything that's out of the ordinary. I just think for us, the standard that we have and from what I've seen of the Bucks just over the last 5 or 6 years, you expect it to be better. And, you know, I just think it's been, you know, a little bit of slippage at times, you know, where our energy is a little bit lower. And just the season weighing on you. You know, we've had a lot of things happen all in one season, you know, where I get traded right before camp. I get traded here. You got a brand new coach coming in after, you know, this group has played for a coach for, you know, a number of years, and then you change coaches to an interim coach for a while. Then we get a new coach, and you putting new stuff in. You know, it's just a lot of things that we've had to kind of battle through, and sometimes that's draining. You know, just mentally to have to learn completely new things, and then it feels good for a stretch of games, and then you have a stretch of games where it's not as smooth, and you got a lot of things to figure out. But I think we all, you know, everybody cares. You know, it's not like this stuff is just rolling off and everybody's like, oh, it's not a problem. Or it's not like we intentionally coming out here and just not having the kind of energy we need to have. Sometimes you just, you know, when things get heavy, you get tired faster. You know, you get a little bit more drained. There's a little bit more pressure on certain things that we need to get done. And it don't always bounce your way. And we just gotta keep going, you know. These last 4 games, important games. And like I said before, you never know when it's going to turn. And we just got to have our minds on that. You know, it could be next game where everything that we kind of been dealing with, it just, you know, we turn that corner and get a big win and we start feeling good about ourselves. And then we go into the next one. And that's what our mentality has to be.
Dave, maybe off that, you mentioned putting new things in. And Doc said this from the very beginning. You know, working with 2-man run, and obviously in LA it clicked for a while, right? But Chris wasn't there, so he's like, okay, we're just gonna do this, and it might not look great. Is that part of this to a degree where there is still a lot of thought and a lot of we need to work on stuff, but it obviously in a game that may not look great, it may not result in something good, and you can have a team go on an 8-0 run, 9-0. I don't know. Is that still a part of it? Is you're still building through things in these games?
Yeah, it's part of it. Like you said, we started getting the 2-man thing working, but it was just me and Giannis out there. We got to be able to have things working when it's me, Chris, and Giannis out there. And that's all a part of a process. You know, you can't just put it out there and say, do it, and then it just flows smooth, you know. We got, like I said, a new coach coming in, and things that he wants to be done, and he wants them to be done a certain way. And I think for us, we're like, okay, we're trying to do it the way he wants us to do it. And then you have your thoughts about, how you would have done it, on your own maybe. And you want to be bought into that. And, I think that sometimes can cause a little bit of thinking, and when you're thinking, you moving a little bit slower, things could be a little bit less natural. And then there's moments where, like the game against OKC, where it was just like bang, 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 it was no thought at all. But every team presents something different, as the season goes, things change. You have ups and downs, you have struggles, you have high moments. And I keep saying it, but as long as we just have our minds right and stay true to it and just know that the tide is going to turn at some point if we keep pushing forward. It will. But if we start, letting it wear on us too much and giving into it, then that's when things just continue to go that way. But I don't think that's not how our team is made up.
You talked about adjusting to a new coach. I think you, Chris, and Giannis have only been together for about a half dozen games since he got there. Is there going to be enough time for y'all to kind of be able to establish that chemistry with the new coach, the three of you, in time for the playoffs? Or how difficult is it? I mean, how much of a hindrance has that been, just not having everybody together very often?
I think it's tough. Anytime you got to connect, things together and you don't have a chance to do it in live action, enough times. But I think the good thing for us is we've all been together, at least regardless of the coaching situation, we've all been together all season long. We've had good stretches. We've had times where we didn't play great games, but then when it came down to it, the last 8 minutes, we was able to win games, with each other, whether that was Chris and Giannis in the pick and roll and me being the first pass out and attacking, or me and Giannis playing a two-man game and the defense pulls over and it's Chris and Brooke in the pick and roll, or Chris getting ISO and having space or whatever. We've had moments where it's worked. So it's not like our struggles lately mean we have no idea how to do it. We have an idea of how to do it. We've had plenty of moments where it flowed and it worked. It's just you want it to be like clockwork. You want it to just flow smooth all the time and for us to not have to think at all. But I don't think there's concern about that because I think when it comes down to it, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that because of who Giannis is, who I am, and who Chris is, we smart enough and we good enough players to figure it out, when it comes time. And I see us being able to put it together when it comes down to it.